Hi there, welcome to Subpar Stitches. My name is Hillary and this is my Flosstube channel. So today I have kind of like a surprising amount of FFOs and finishes for myself. I've got a couple projects to share with you, and before we get into that though, like through the intro, I just have a couple like announcements and things. So first of all, I hit 1,000 subscribers, which I have to say like thank you to the Hathaway Stitchers for shouting me out on their channel, Erin and Amity, because that shout out is, I think, what pushed me over the edge. So I finally hit 1,000, which is really cool. Maybe I'll do a giveaway, so stick around to the end because I guess I have some patterns that I could just give away. Let's do that. Let's do a giveaway at the end. Okay, yeah, all right, so everything's gonna be timestamped, so if you don't care about anything else, I guess you can skip to the giveaway timestamp. The second thing is I want to say thank you. Thank you so much to the commenter who left this comment. I forgot. I'm going to put it on this side probably. I don't know. I can't. Directions, right? But I can't remember the name of the person off the top of my head because I can't remember anything to save my life. But this comment on my last video where I was complaining about how I was having beef with Pattern Keeper literally saved my life, saved a lot of rage that I was brewing because I guess Pattern Keeper had updated and I didn't know about that. And so I wasn't able to like recover any of my stuff because that's not how it works, but I was able to re-import everything and mark it all off because I was trying to re-import all of my old patterns that I had in there. And like half of them just weren't working, and apparently you can go into the advanced options, select the previous version and import it under that, and that worked. And so my full coverage Pokemon Stitch, I got it all back in, I got it remarked, and I even worked on it some more. So thank you, dear commenter, you saved my life, probably saved my marriage because my husband kept asking me like, is there anything I could do to help? Because he knew I was like frustrated. I was like, just get away from me. Just get away from me. I don't want to think about this. Just saved a lot of things in this world. So, and then my final announcement before we get into all the stuff is I usually do my updates every 2 weeks. My next one after this will be in, I believe, 3 weeks because StitchCon Weekend A is the weekend I will be attending, and that falls like 2 weeks from this update. So I'm going to post my update after that, like the week after. So if anybody was like waiting with bated breath every 2 weeks for my videos, you're going to have to wait another week. So anyways, let's hop right in. I've got 3 FFOs, I believe. I guess I could just look at them. Yeah, I have 3 FFOs and then like 2 more finished objects. So FFO is fully finished object, if you didn't know. And let's go. Let's get into it. So let's start with the one that I finished a couple hours ago. This morning I was like, oh, I should do that. And that is the Wizard Biscornu, and this is by Tiny Modernist. She has like a whole bunch of these Biscornus that are on these like little tiny like cardstock kind of patterns. They're really kind of convenient, cute little bite-size thing. This is my first ever Biscornu, and I stitched this on 18 count white Aida. And I've had it finished for a while, like the top and the bottom. So the top is all these wizards, and there's like a lot of backstitch. And then the bottom is like moons and planets and, you know, more backstitch. And I was just like, eventually I'll get around to FFOing it. I just never did. I never did. And then I found it in me this morning to just do it because I had 2 other FFOs, and I was like, might as well add 1 more. And so I got these buttons, these little star buttons, when I was on my bachelorette trip in Traverse City. My sister and I, we went to this like knitting store, and they had all these like little buttons, and I was like, these will be perfect for this. And I was a little bit intimidated by the whole process of it, but I watched the Tiny Modernist tutorial on how to finish a Biscornu. Very easy. It's so easy. It's tedious, but it's not like if you just, I just had like a show on, well, not a show. watching a weird amount of police body cam footage lately. I don't know. Don't ask. I don't know why, but so I was watching a bunch of police body cam footage and I was stitching this together, and I only stabbed myself once, and it was 3 stitches in to the whole process, so I feel like that's good. Only one time. I bled a ton. Why not? And the hardest part, I would say, is affixing the buttons on, because getting them centered is tough when you're trying to squeeze this together because all that polyfill is in there, and then like you're sewing both the buttons on at once. And putting the first button on is easy, but then getting the needle to come up where you want it to on the other side, a little bit tough. But it didn't take me that long. I think actually sewing the edges together, just because it was my first time, took me like 45 minutes to an hour. I also struggled because it's 18 count, and you sew through this like back stitch line that you made, and my back stitch was really tight, so getting the needle under was like annoying, but that was my own fault. And then it took me like another 10 minutes to get the buttons on because I was really struggling to like I said, get the needle to come up where I wanted it to. But for my very first Biscornu, here is the edge. This is kind of what it looks like where it's all sewn together. So easy, so cute. I'm going to make 10,000 more of these, and I love it. And if you're new here, all of my patterns that I'm talking about will be listed down below in chronological order as they appear in the video, and I will provide links for those if they are available. The next FFO I have is actually a Father's Day card. So I don't think my dad watches this channel. He only watches my nail polish channel. But Dad, if you're watching, go away. So I fully finished this. This is called O-Fish-Cially. It is by Maria Diaz, and I got it from like one of the recent cross-stitch magazines. And I just finished it as a card, so I haven't written anything in there yet. But this card, you can buy these like little like finishes. It's like 3 pieces, and you fold one piece over the back, and like you glue it, or I think I used tape. I used tape and glue. I don't know. I was just feeling in a sticky mood. And then you like glue that, fold that down over the back of your piece to like hide it, and then it's a fully fledged card. I got one of these cards when I did the Crafty Gurumi advent calendar for last December, but I wanted to save that for the pattern it came with. And then I was looking online, and you can like buy these cards, people sell them, but then I was like, wait a minute, I have a Cricut, I have a ruler, I can figure this out, and I did. So I just made this out of like craft cardstock paper, and I just measured the dimensions of this, and I made a hole in a giant rectangle, and then I like I used like the perforation blade to perforate these 2 edges, and it was easy. This is the first one I made. And then I glued it the wrong way. So this part here was the one that was supposed to actually fold over the design, because I wanted to give it like a little bit of a gap so it wasn't pressed right up against the crease. And then I goofed. So when you close it, there is like 1/8 of an inch, but my dad's not going to care. So I just know better for next time. But I think that it turned out really cute. My dad's a big fisherman. He lives on a lake. He has a couple of boats and about 10,000 fishing lures. So I will write a note, be like, hey Dad, here you go. So that was an easy FFO. And then for my last FFO, if you are attending StitchCon Weekend A and you are doing the Smalls Exchange and you don't want to be spoiled on this, then skip to whatever timestamp I put on the screen. Well, actually just skip to the new starts timestamp, because I'm about to show my FFO for the Smalls Exchange. So I hope you guys are ready. I hope whoever receives this is ready. So I stitched Swamp Slut, and it's got class in there, so it's going to reflect the ring light. But this is Swamp Slut by Arcady of Sorrows, and you're just going to have a little bit of ring light action in there. But It is like in the Shrek font, it says slut. And then it's got like hearts, rainbows, and smiley faces all around. And then in the back, because this is like supposed to be like a floating glass frame, I had this fun green fabric. And so I stuck that back there. And I got this, I love this frame. I really don't want to give this away, to be honest, but I got this from Michael's and it was on sale for like $7 for the frame. It was so funny because I'm like walking around Michael's, and whenever I'm like bringing something that I want to frame, or whenever I have something that I want to frame, I usually bring the product with me, the fabric, the stitch, the finished stitch. I bring that with me. And I like hold it up to the frames to see like, does this look good together? So I'm like walking around Michael's with this slut and I'm just like holding it up to different frames. And this like older woman who works there comes up to me and she's like, can I help you find anything? And I was like, no, you cannot. I like shoved it in my pocket. I was like, no, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I'm just browsing. I will say the one thing about this was it was hard to get in there because, so you can see it's 2 pieces of glass and then there's like this rubber stopper, and sandwiching 2 pieces of fabric with the glass and then like trying to shove it back in was really hard. So I did it, and then it was like kind of not centered properly. So I had to try and pull it back out. So I'm like sitting there like, oh, it was so hard to get it back out because it was really hard to get it in. And then I stuck it back in again, thinking it was centered, still not centered. So I heave it back out. And then finally this like 3rd time I got it kind of where I wanted it. And I shove it back in, and then I had to like go get Windex and wipe it all down because I had dirty fingerprints all over it. But I got this, and then I got a few other things, which I'll show you in my next video when I show off like all my StitchCon stuff. But I hope whoever gets this small isn't mad at me. Oh, whoops, I have a couple finished objects too, so I guess whoever skipped that to that timestamp is going to be missing out on these. But I have a couple finished objects. So the first one is I had finished Colors of Spring. So here's where I was last time. This is by Stitch Rovia. I stitched it on 40 Count April Showers by Bestitch Me. And this has been my at work project. Every day I'm in the office, which is 3 days a week. I stitch 1 full block and I have 4 seasons going. So here it is, all finished. I'm not going to FFO this until all 4 of them are done because I want to like FFO them together so it's kind of more consistent. I think the last time I saw you guys, I had just kind of started migrating birds, which is right here. So then I added pastel nails. This one, which is a, what is it? A duster. We have a cleaning cloth, chocolate, and bluebells. So on this one, I changed a lot more on the other ones. On this one, the only thing I changed was I took the U out of colors. And then this is a punchki right here. But it was originally a hot cross bun in the original one because theirs is like classic English Colors of Spring, and I wanted it to more reflect my experience. And then the other thing is, I don't know if you guys can see this on camera. Oh yeah, you definitely can. There's like a big dirt line where my Nerge hoop was. So I don't know what I'm going to do about that. But luckily, when I finish it, I'm going to probably keep it pretty tight to the design. So that'll just get, you know, folded over. So you won't have to worry about it. But I think this looks really cute. I think it's really fun, and I'm excited to get started on summer. I would have started summer. I already have like half of it done, but I would have continued my work on summer this week, but I just wanted to take like a palette cleanser week and not work on a big block because each block is 324 stitches. They're 18 by 18. So I figured I would just take a week off, and then next week I will start back into Colors of Summer and keep chugging away on that. Oh my gosh, I have 3 FOs. What am I doing here? I have this whole list and I just can't read. The other FO I have is Stitchy Tear by Erin Elizabeth Designs, which I started last weekend. It was my start of the week, and then I ended up or no, I started 2 weekends ago, and I ended up finishing it like within that time frame. So it's nice and itty bitty. I did it 1/1 on 28 count Milk and Honey by Fiber on a Whim. I, on a whim, decided to stitch it 1/1 at the last second. I don't know why. It just seemed like a fun thing to do. And it is super cute. I made one error, which is these little buttons down here are supposed to be stitched in the lighter green that is incorporated in this. And I just didn't notice until it was too late. Like I just grabbed the wrong thing. I don't know how. And then I ended up just saying, I don't care. It doesn't matter that much. And I was worried as I was stitching it that the white wasn't going to show up on this, but I feel like it shows up pretty well. When I finished it, I showed my husband, and he was like, I really like the pumpkin on the cake stand. And I was like, buddy, that is a tomato. So really cute. I think finding like an itty bitty frame or doing it as like a tiny itty bitty square pillow might be cute. I looked at some of the other tiers that they had, and I guess like the pattern is so big, like the size of the booklet is a full sheet of like printer paper, that I didn't realize how small this pattern really was. So finishing it in like 2.5 days was no problem. But if somebody could tell me what the heck this thing is next to the sewing machine, that green thing, I can't figure it out. I don't know. I've stared at it and I'm sure it's obvious, but I just keep looking at it and I'm like, what is this? I don't know. So everything else I know. I'm like, oh, that's a thimble, that's a spool of thread, blah, blah, blah. I know all those, but like, what is that rectangle? The other thing too is it was really funny, like stitching this like cross stitch hoop and then stitching in it, because it felt very meta of like a stitch within a stitch. So, but yeah, really, really cute. And then my last finish was a SAF, or a start and finish. I started it yesterday, finished it yesterday. And there's 2 more patterns in this series that I'm going to work on, but I will explain the issue that I had there. So this is from, what is the pattern's called? Sweet Mixed Pickles, and this is by Pickle Barrel Designs. It's 3 separate pickle related designs, and this one is Pickles Are Delicious, and I stitched this on 32 count Luna Moth by Bestitch Me. It's like a kind of pale lightish blue. I've got 2 more like little squares of it because I'm going to do all 3 of the patterns. I'm hoping to finish them all this weekend. So when I was stitching this pattern, I just grabbed all the threads, threw them in my bag, and then took them to work with me yesterday because I was in the office. And I was like, okay, I'll just start this at work when I have some downtime. And I got to like the pickle brine stuff, and I grabbed the called for color, and it's 722, and I was like, I don't think that's correct, because I looked at the display pieces on the pattern and I was like, this color's definitely not in there. So I was like, I'm not gonna stitch that part. I'll stitch everything else and then I'll worry about that later. I DM'd the designer on Instagram, and in the meantime I had like shown my friend Tara from Wild Woman Crafts. I was like, yeah, I don't know what the deal is. And she was like, oh, I bet it's 712. And I ran to my drawers and I pulled out 712 and I was like, you know what? I think you're right. And then I was like, how did you pull that boring color out of your brain so easily? Like, I only remember like 444 is like that crazy yellow, 666 is a bright red, 310 is black. Like, I only remember like very specific colors, not like this kind of beige. So I ended up just using that because I was like, it looks close enough and it's probably correct. But the designer actually sent me a couple other colors that it could be. So I will not worry about it because I think it looks fine. And I'll denote it on the pattern so that when I eventually give it away or trade it off to somebody, that way they know. And then I was going to start the second pattern, but then it has a symbol on the chart that isn't reflected on the key. So I DM'd the designer again and I was like, hey, not to be annoying, but can you tell me what this color is? So she DM'd me like right before I started this video, and she was like, I'm gonna fix it, and then she was like, send me your email and I will send you like a corrected copy. So after I'm done filming this and editing and all that, I'll probably start that one. But yeah, so that was my last finish of these past 2 weeks, which is a surprising amount of finishes for me, considering I'm starting one new project every week, and I just felt like I would have no finishes in sight this year. So as far as new starts go, like I had started the pickles, but then, you know, I finished that one. And then last week, I started Spaghetti Western by Artith Designs, and I have all but 2 of the called for threads. It uses Gentle Arts, and I just wasn't able to get the other 2. They weren't available on 123 Stitch. They were like sold out. So I'm waiting to get those, but I'm just working around them. So here are the mess of threads. Very kind of like neutral palette with a very like bright blue, not bright, but light blue. And then we got, this one's on one of these things because, I don't know. Oh, and then there's a red as well. So I'm stitching this on, I think, 32 count Mater Sandwich by Dames of the Needle. It calls for a different red, but I just grabbed this one when I was at StitchCon last year when I went over to the keepsakes. There we go. And this is 3 days worth of work. I brought it all the way over, so like this, the horse's tail, I think, is where like the furthest edge is. He's supposed to have a like little corral around him, but I don't have that color. And I'm missing the color of one of these like bow tie pastas here. And then this guy looks a little funky because his horns, I don't have the color for his horns or the edge of his tail. So I just am waiting, like I said, to get all of that. But I just have to finish the alphabet down here. And then there's like a bunch of like pasta and noodles once I finish the farm animals, which is like the part that I'm most excited for. Like there's like a big bowl of spaghetti. And then at the bottom of the design, it says for good food and social justice. And I'm either going to leave that off or change what it says. Not that I don't like social justice. I mean, like, I'm all for it. I just feel like it doesn't fit the design. And so I might put for good food and good fun, or I might just, like I said, leave it off entirely. Because after stitching all these letters up here, I don't like stitching words that much, or letters or alphabets. I like stitching designs, so I don't know. But oh, and the girl in the wheelchair, I don't have her face or her hand in there either, because that's another one of the colors that I don't have. So she just looks a little bit spooky right now. But I really, really like this so far. I stitched this while watching Ren Fair, that documentary, because I saw that the guy who ran that Ren Fair in Texas, he died recently, like a couple weeks ago, and that's what the documentary is about, is that guy. And so I was like, oh, I should probably watch this. It's been on my list, and it was a ride for sure. I definitely recommend it. It's on HBO, or Max as it's called. So I would recommend that if you're interested in like Ren Fair culture and stuff. But that was my only other new start. And then I had 2 whips. So my work's in progress. The first one was Pokemon, which I have had a goal of getting done by the end of next year. So I broke it down to where if I stitch 100, or not 100, but 860 stitches a week until the end of next year, I will finish it. And I've done more than that, so the progress is slowly creeping up. So I think I should be done by August of next year rather than the end of the year. We'll see how that goes. This is a pattern by Lord Libidin, and it is 115,200 stitches, which I believe is the biggest stitch that I will have ever completed by the time this is done. Here's where I was the last time. I'm so close to moving the hoop again, which is crazy. But here is where it is now. you can see I really put in all the work up through here and finish like all these Pokemon. And so now I've just got to fill in these guys right here. And then I will bring the hoop back down over here and just continue working across. Really excited. I just feel like I'm not 50%, but I'm really, really close to halfway, which is really cool. But also, this is my oldest whip, and there was like one whole year that I just didn't work on this, which is disappointing. But I have, like, there's an end in sight. And I will probably have this one professionally framed just because I put so much work into it, you know? I don't know. Having things professionally framed is so expensive, but this one I really want to. And then my last whip was the Nostalgic Tarot, which it was called for Whip Go, and the call was to put 5,000 stitches on it. And at first I thought it only said 3,000, so I was like, oh cool, I'm done. And then I went to go check it off on WhipGo, and I was like, no you dummy, it's 5,000. And I was like, well shit, because I got to do 2,000 more stitches now. And I did them. I actually did 2,500 more stitches because I miscounted how many I had already done. And so I thought I was 500 short, so I did 500 extra, which doesn't hurt. But I had only been working on the frame, and I was like, I'm getting sick of only working on the frame. So I moved down and I started working on one of the cards. And so you can see I've gotten, you know, the top of the frame done. And then I started working on this card, which there's so much excess fabric. I need to just cut it down, but I won't do it. I refuse. So this is the Fool. He's a little panda. The last thing I did was finish that outer rainbow border. So it's like a triple border. So you've got the rainbow border, and then there's like a full white border, and then there's like a full black border. So you can see maybe at the top of the card that triple border there. And so it's a lot. Like, this card has over 4,000 stitches in it, I believe. I'm more than halfway done. So once I finished that rainbow border, took it out of the hoop, folded it up, put it away. And then the next day, WhipGo numbers, I looked at them. And you know what got called again? So I put this on my WhipGo board 4 times. 2 for 5,000 stitches and 2 for 3,000 stitches. And it got called for 3,000 and 5,000 stitches for next month. So I have to do 8,000 stitches on this dang thing. So what my plan is I will finish this card with however many stitches I need to. And then I'll come and I will work the border down more and probably get it to mirror like the other side so that it has that like butterfly, and that's like the full width. And then I can cut off the excess from the side, and then once I hit the bottom, I can cut off the excess from the bottom. Because this is, I'm going to fold this back up. It's 14 count black Ada, and I bought like the world's biggest piece of it. And so you can see it's a lot of fabric. And fabric management is not easy with this one. I used the biggest Nurge hoop available for it, but it's still like, it's just a lot. But luckily, I was gifted this Lisa Frank bag that is huge. It's got these like top handles on it and like a cool pocket with aliens. And so this has been really great for this project. Perfect for this project, actually. So those are all my whips that are still ongoing. Obviously, I finished quite a bit, which is impressive for me. As far as plans go, like I said, 3 weeks from now, I will be doing an update because I will be at StitchCon. And then, what else? My plan starts for the next couple weeks are, so this week, Sweet Mix Pickles. I'm going to finish those other 2, hopefully. And then the weekend after that, I will be starting 100 Owls by Owl Forest Designs. I bought the thread pack, and I can't remember what fabric I have. You guys will see it in 3 weeks. So that's when I've been wanting to start. I love Owl Forest designs. And then while I'm at StitchCon, my new start will be Ope by Shitpost Samplers, because what am I if not a Midwesterner? And Ope is part of the daily vernacular. So this is what it looks like in their chosen colors, but I'm changing the colors to a couple colors that I liked better. And so I will show you that in a couple of weeks. And then I will be starting Colors of Summer. Not starting, but continuing to work on Colors of Summer, but that'll be my new work rotation project. And if all goes according to plan, I will be done with it by the first week of July. So those are all of my plans. I'm sure there will be more starts at StitchCon. I don't know what we're going to start, but whenever we all get together, we do end up starting something. So we'll see. I'm sure we'll find a pattern. So I guess that leads me into the giveaway that I decided to do as soon as I sat down here. So since I finished my first Biscornu, why don't I give away the Wizard Biscornu pattern? Because this looks like it would be really easy to ship and it would fit in a lot of small envelopes. So that's why I'm going to give away this one, because other stuff is too big and I don't want it to get bent in the mail. So if you are interested in winning this pattern, please be 18, because I don't want your parents thinking I'm a creepy old woman sending you mail. And don't say giveaway, I guess, because apparently there are people who are like, I would win anything if I could. So use the word wizard. Use the word wizard in your comment if you would like to win the Wizard Biscornu pattern, and then I will announce the winner in my next video 3 weeks from now. So then you'll have to be comfortable with, like, you know, giving me a mailing address and stuff like that. So keep that in mind when you enter. But yeah, just enter the word wizard. You'll get this little pattern, and then you too could have your very own Wizard Biscornu. So, but this is for the pattern, not the, you can't have my Biscornu. You got to make your own. Okay. So anyways, that's going to be it from me. I have to go back to work because I can see the emails piling up. So I hope you guys enjoy your stitching time. If you see me at StitchCon, please come up and say hi, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.